welcome to the Ronnie Show. So glad you could be with us here tonight. Of course, we're coming to you right before we go on the air for Sioux City and Sioux Falls. So yeah, I can't wait for that. Our 600th Musketeers game we've covered. So that'll be some truly exciting stuff. Now, you might be wondering, Ronnie, what's going on with your hair? Well, I've got a headband on actually, now that I'm growing out my hair, my hair's getting longer by the day, so, and of course, it's starting to, get in my face and cover my ears and do all that fun stuff, so, and it kind of bothers me a little bit. It's very distracting from, if I'm trying to do something, I'm just kind of like messing with my hair, see, like just now, so, yeah, so we're kind of putting it back a little bit, so, yeah, but forget about that. This is our first Ronnie show since I've been in Arizona, and we were supposed to recap the trip last week, but I just didn't have enough time. And, well, these last 2 weeks, I haven't really had a lot of time to do anything. At least, side projects, things that aren't that important. Well, let's go talk. Thank you very much. I swear, you guys are the best audience in television. I mean, you really are, so thank you so much for all that. Anyway. Yeah, see, look, my hair is, well, it's almost a disaster. Well, because I usually wash it, like, every single day, but I guess you're not really supposed to do that, so. But it's like, if I don't, then it'll be in, like, a hot mess like this. Like, there's hair kind of shooting out all over the place and things like that, so. Anyway, who really knows, to be quite honest with you. So yeah, I got a headband on, just because I'm tired of my hair. I mean, basically, if I didn't have it on, it would be like this. But, obviously, I kind of push it off to the side. But even then, it kind of looks, I mean, it doesn't look bad, but it just, like I said, I don't want my hair, well, obviously my hair will end up covering my ears, but right now, and covering my face and things like that, but it's just too much of a distraction right now. So that's why I kind of have it the way it is, so. Yeah. Anyway, see, look, you got all these little hair, although it looks weird this way, too, because you got all these little hairs poking up. Alright, let's get to the fun stuff. The reason why we're here tonight. So we'll start off with the Arizona trip. Because we haven't made a show since it. There we go. Now we got it back far enough to where this shouldn't be an issue. But anyway. Yeah, because I got this. It almost looks like an angel right here. Like, I don't know why. Although I did take a nap. So that's probably... Today, that's probably why some of my hair is shooting out like this. And also, too, I also had a hat on, so there we go, that should be okay. Anyway, Arizona. So, as you know, this was my first time ever on a plane, going down at least. And it was fun. It was fun, I gotta say. I don't know why. I mean, obviously, the reason why I never been on a plane before is because my parents were afraid to fly. Like, they were... Both of them were. My dad didn't really like the turbulence, and the main reason why my mom didn't like it is because, it's kind of a stupid thing, but I guess they used to say, if the plane, and I didn't hear this both times I flew, like right before I flew, and they're reading over all the rules and stuff. Apparently they said, in case of water landing, please swim, and she couldn't swim, so... She was a little terrified of that, because, what was that one thing that happened in the Hudson River in New York? I think it was over 15 years ago. I guess a plane had to do like an emergency landing, or, I don't know. I don't remember all the details, but I remember that was like a big story, national news, so you can inform me more in the comments below. But, anyway, so... We got down there, and our flight was delayed. We took off exactly 2 hours after we were supposed to. Mainly because the first delay was that there was problems with the airplane bathrooms. So, like, there was no running water in them, or whatever the water runs on. There was just issues with like the water in the bathroom. Like I said, I don't know how it all correlates together like that, but so in fact they weren't even letting us board the plane either, because we were supposed to board at like, it was 1 minute after 4 on the nose, so 4:01 we were supposed to board, and we didn't board until close to 5 o'clock probably. And then once we got on, obviously, you know, they wait for everybody to come on and things like that. And so everybody got on, and we kind of started to take off from the terminal, but then we got close to the runway and somebody threw up. It was a woman. She had her husband there and their 3 kids, and then they have, so then at that point, of course, we had to go back to the terminal, and obviously they all got off, and then even then we still had to wait like 20 minutes before then we got onto the runway, and then we were off, and it felt weird. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it felt weird, but then, you know, once after about 20 minutes or so, I got used to it. Like, it was okay for me. So, yeah. Plus, they serve alcoholic beverages on the plane. Like, I mean, I think I did know that, but like, as you know, for my 21st birthday, I want to go to Vegas. So, that plane ride there with that booze, I mean, that might be fun. So, yeah. Anyway, so let's see, what was I going to say? Anyway, so then we touched down, obviously, and my aunt, my uncle, and my one cousin that was down there, because obviously all my 2 other cousins and their girlfriend and fiance, they all came New Year's Eve night. So that me, my grandma, me and my grandma, I was about to say me, my grandma, and I was like, that does not make any sense at all. But anyway, took off. Like I said, it felt weird. Then we landed, and of course my aunt, my uncle, and my one cousin were there to pick us up. And we were going to get dinner after we had landed. But because, you know, we were delayed 2 hours, we got down there 2 hours later than we were supposed to. So, and by this point it was almost 8:30. So, I guess they had already eaten something during regular dinner time. And then after that, we actually all went to In-N-Out Burger. So they must have just had like a little appetizer or something like that, just to tide them over till we went to In-N-Out. First time ever having In-N-Out, and it won't be my last. I know that. I mean, it was just so good. So good. So yeah, and then after that, it was about an hour drive from my aunt and uncle's house down there to, from the airport. So we got there probably, it was about 10:30 or so. We didn't do a whole lot after that. In fact, within about an hour or so, I was in bed sleeping. So there was that. But other than that, smooth flight down. There was a little bit of turbulence. I mean, obviously with turbulence, you know, you can be like bouncing up and down and things like that. It wasn't that bad. I mean, we kind of went like, and then went like that, and then we kind of shook for a little bit, but it wasn't too bad, which was good. So, yeah, that was day 1. And then day 2, I honestly can't really remember what we did for day 2. Oh, we did a little bit of like sightseeing, because my aunt and uncle's house down there is on like a golf resort type of thing. So we did some sightseeing around. I mean, obviously, if you saw the 2026 preview part 2, you saw what happened. So anyway, we went sightseeing around the neighborhood on their golf cart. So that was pretty cool. We got to experience that. A very nice neighborhood, I gotta say. It was really, really nice, for sure. And then, let's see, we went to lunch. I can't exactly remember what we did for lunch that day. I'm trying to think, but fact, I don't even remember what we had for dinner that night either. That's kind of bad. Don't you think? That's kind of bad if I can't even remember. Oh, no, I do remember what we did for dinner that night. We went to some restaurant, bar and restaurant type thing. And I do remember what we did for lunch now. We went to this, because there's like this outlet mall, and where they got all these stores and things like that. So we went there, and there's like a food court. In fact, they have this Philly cheesesteak place that I just love, called Charlie's. They had that in the food court, which was good. Delicious. And so and they have it at the mall here in Sioux Falls, which I have not been to. I've always wanted to get to the mall here in Sioux Falls, but I just haven't had the time to do so. Mainly just to like walk around and things like that. I mean, not to necessarily buy anything, but maybe check out some of the stores, and who knows, maybe buy something. I'll do that eventually, but like I said, when I've got time, we'll do that. Because yeah, ever since I got back to school, time has just like not been on my side at all. We'll talk about that a little after the trip. Yeah, and then kind of in between lunch and dinner, I don't think we did much. At least not that I can remember. So yeah, then we moved to day number 3. Oh, I learned this new game called Flip 7. It's basically, well, I'm not going to go into it. You can kind of look up the rules yourself. Maybe the reason why I'm not telling is because there's going to be a lot of talking. So we might be here for over an hour, just me blabbering on. So that's why I'm skipping out some of those details. But you can look it up, kind of the rules and stuff. So yeah, we played that. I had a whole lot of fun with it. That is for sure. So anyway, definitely playing that again. And then the third day, got up. We actually went to this place called Hole in the Rock. So basically what it is that it's basically what it sounds like. It's this big, giant rock, and then there's a hole in it. So basically you can like take these steps kind of all the way to the top, and you'll see, we'll do like a whole kind of like picture slideshow after we're done talking of the trip. And you'll see, it's cool. And it looks out onto some, like, beautiful terrain. Like, really, it does. And then we went to this place called Oregano's. And it's kind of like a pizza place. In fact, here, let me back up a moment. When we were at the outlet mall on the second day, I bought a pair of green Crocs. So, yeah, that was kind of fun. Musketeer color, so... But anyway, back to day 3. So after we did that, we went to Oregano's. Now, I guess... I don't remember exactly what the story was, but I guess my cousin, I don't know if she had some sort of allergy or something like that, but something in the pasta or whatever made her very sick. the last time they were there. So it was kind of an interesting... In fact, we were going to go to this other place beforehand. Before we eventually went to Oregano's, but it was closed. I guess it opened at like 3:30 or 3 o'clock every single day, and it closes at like 9 or 10 every single day. So my uncle was really bummed out about it, but it's the way it is sometimes. Next time I'm in Arizona, we'll go down there just for dinner instead. So anyway, yeah, so we were at Oregano's, and my cousin had this book that she basically took everywhere we went. And she was just kind of reading it and, things like that. And she, of course, had a bookmark in there, and it was of her and her father, my uncle. So I don't know how this happened, but we were eating, and she, I think, had pizza. I think I was the only one that got something else other than pizza. I had a pasta dish. It was a ziti, as they called it. It was something ziti. I can't remember what it was, but it was really good. But anyway, as we were leaving, in fact, we were taking my grandma down to see her cousin in Tucson. She stayed there for like 3 or 4 days or whatever it was. And then I think this past Friday or whatever, they came back, and her cousin and her husband stayed a night over there, and then they went back. But anyway, on the way to Tucson, we realized that she had lost her bookmark. And, well, we were kind of in the moment, like, we were all... I mean, I don't think I was all that worried, because it's just like a bookmark. Like, it's not... You could just, like, this could be a bookmark right here. So, like, I wasn't really maybe as concerned about it as she was. But anyway, we had realized that she didn't have it. And I don't know. I don't remember when exactly they called. It was either before or after we had dropped her off, my grandma. I think they placed the phone call while we were on our way down there. So, and they were like, basically they had like a description of the bookmark and things like that. And they were like, oh, okay, if we find it, we'll call you and let you know. So that, I think it was on our way back, the restaurant called us. And they said they found it. So that was just kind of remarkable that they did find it. So, yeah. What was I going to say? Anyway, then after that, we just kind of relaxed the rest of the night. We just had, like, dinner, and, well, the dinner was basically, like, all of our leftovers put together. And then my aunt and uncle, they went out with some friends for a little while during the evening, and, I just kind of sat back, relaxed, didn't do anything. So, yeah, that was night 3. And then day 4, obviously, we didn't do much, obviously. We just went to dinner, I think, at Dairy Queen, and went to the airport, flew back home, and then that was about it. Although, when we got back to Sioux Falls, so it was my other cousin and his girlfriend picked us up. And, obviously we were talking about the trip, everyone was wondering, how the trip, I mean, they all wanted to know, well, everybody did once we officially got back to my uncle's house. Like, everybody wanted to know. Like, they just wanted to know how I enjoyed it. Like, they didn't really want to know how my uncle or my cousin enjoyed it, just how I did. And, I thought it was great, I don't really have anything negative to say. I mean, it was a great trip to Arizona. Like I said, definitely won't be my last time down there, that is for sure. So, yeah, anyway, I mean, besides Hole in the Rock, I feel like we didn't do much of, like, anything. Like, yeah, sure, we went out to eat and things like that, but, other than the Hole in the Rock, and then I guess dropping, because this place where, my grandma's cousin and her husband live, it's like this retirement community, but it's these, like, beautiful luxury apartments. Well, they're not really luxurious, but they're kind of, not really high-end either, but just really, really, it's a really nice complex. It really honestly is. And, it kind of looks out towards the mountains and things like that, so it's really beautiful scenery. But then, yet again, I was also only down there for, 2 full days, so we couldn't really, and, obviously that trip to Tucson kind of took out a day. So we only really had 1 day to do any kind of, sightseeing and things like that, which, obviously, like I said, this was kind of like me just kind of dipping into the water for the first time. So I wasn't really expecting to do much of anything, but I'm glad of what we did down there for sure. But anyway, so then obviously we got back here to Sioux Falls. My cousin and his girlfriend came and got us, and then, obviously, we went to our uncle's house, and, oh my god, it was crazy. Like, I will say, my one cousin, her name's Lauren, don't get me wrong, I love her to death. I love all my family to death, really, but she is definitely not an introvert, we'll just say that. So, like, she was yelling and screaming, and, of course, they got dogs, so the dogs were, like, barking at the top of their lungs, and I was like, oh my god. And then I guess my other cousin's fiance, she was kind of almost yelling and screaming too, and I thought, oh my god, because obviously I was going to plan on spending the night there, so I was like, oh my god, how am I going to get through the night? Because at one point when everything was going on, 10 minutes after we got there, things were still going crazy, and I just kind of went aside, and I'm like, oh God, please pray I make it through the night here. And my uncle was like, now you know exactly how I feel. So anyway, we made it through the night. But then we ended up, obviously my uncle, my one cousin, and me, we didn't have dinner. So we got back to his house, I don't know, it was close to 8, I would say. Close to 8 o'clock. And we were trying to figure out what we were going to have for dinner, because, you know, obviously, like I said, we hadn't eaten yet. I mean, we had snacks on the plane, but we hadn't eaten since lunch, obviously. So we were trying to and obviously I think both my cousins and their fiance and girl, I think they had eaten dinner, but like they didn't have much. I think they were kind of, at least in my view, in my eyes, they were kind of waiting for us to get home in order to have like actual dinner. But then by the time we got home, my uncle was like, oh my God, it's like a frat house in here. There's nothing in the fridge. The house is the mess. You know, things. And I guess my aunt would have had like a big fit about it, but because I don't know why, but anyway, so yeah, we basically had nothing to eat. Although I guess, I don't know who baked it, but somebody baked this cake, and it had like all of this chocolate and frost. It was good. It was good. Don't get me wrong, but they were like, oh, you might not even need to have dinner. One little piece of it might fill you up completely. I'm like, okay. I doubt it will, since, you know, like I said, it's only like that big, but it was good. It was good. But obviously I still had enough room in my stomach to have this big burrito. In fact, I couldn't even eat it all because the toppings and stuff were coming out. Once we did eventually decide on dinner, we all decided to have like this one restaurant. It's called, well, I think Qdoba. Qdoba is a national chain. I'm almost positive of that. But anyway, so everyone got bowls, but I got a burrito, and I was like, what? Although, to be fair, out of everybody in that group, out of anybody in my family, I am definitely like the most unique person, because, you know, I don't do things, I guess, the same way a normal person would do. Like, there's a method to my madness, as I like to say, because I just love when things are off the wall chaos. I mean, well, except for when I was going like that, but you know, I just like a whole bunch of randomness, to be quite honest with you, I guess. So yeah, I guess I was just unique, and that, you know, I got a burrito and everyone else got bowls, so okay. But I couldn't even finish my burrito, which obviously if I didn't have that cake, then I probably would have finished it. But anyway, so yeah, we were just kind of eating the burrito, or I was. In fact, like I said, you'll see pictures, and I'll even include the 2 pictures. One of them is of that, and another one which I'll talk about shortly. But yeah, I mean, I was halfway done with my burrito, and I had like toppings falling out of my my burrito, and I was like, oh, okay. So then it turned into me unwrapping my burrito and just kind of cutting it with my fork, and all of them were looking at me like, what the are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And I was like, you know, all my toppings are falling out. I mean, I was gonna have to eat it with the fork at some point. So yeah, I just ate the rest of my burrito, and I still had a little bit of it left, which I saved for the next morning. So yeah, and then after that, all of us, except for my uncle and my one cousin, because she had school the next morning, so she was upstairs studying, and of course, that week, last Friday and Saturday, she had Thursday and Friday, she had semester testing, so, hey, we'll just say it like this, the adult kids, we all played the game of life, and we played the new version of the game of life, where instead of, like, the paper money, you have, like, the cards that you put in the little slot or whatever, and it shows you how much money you have. After 3 turns, and I guess you start out with $500,000, after 3 turns, I was a millionaire. And of course, after that, I had a target on my back, and they started stealing my money. So I was like, I'm not y'all sugar daddies, but okay. In fact, next time when we play, I'm not even revealing that, how much money I got, because I don't want to have a target on my back. We'll just have to keep them guessing, I guess. But it was just fun, I am kind of like the comedian in my family. Like, I like to crack, one-liners and things like that. So, I was obviously doing that. And, of course, when I compete in a game, I like to... I mean, although I didn't do much, I kind of like to try... I like to talk a big game sometimes, I will admit. You definitely hear it during the Musketeers games. I mean... But, yeah, I wasn't doing it as much as I probably would have in, like, a normal, well, I shouldn't even say that, in a normal time, but, like I usually do, if that makes sense. But, I thought I had fun. I had fun playing it. I mean, I didn't really like the cards thing. I wish we would have just played with paper. Although, in a way, now that I think about it, I don't know why we would have played with paper money, because you would have seen what everyone had. So, I'm just saying, but... because I like to do things my way, obviously. So, it's like either my way or the highway, as they say. So, yeah. But other than that, it was a great night. Honestly, really was. And then, of course, we got up the next morning. My cousin and his fiance and I, we all went to this place. In fact, it's really close to my campus. Well, their house and my college. This place, it's called Bagel Boy. And I haven't gone to it, but at least at that point, I hadn't gone to it. So, I mean, I had obviously knew about it and knew where it was at, but it wasn't on the top places, if I want to go out to eat. It just wasn't on the top of my list. And it's still, after going there, not, but, like, I'm going to think about it a little bit more. So... But yeah, we went there, and it was good stuff. I mean, it's basically... I mean, you can kind of get... Well, at least when we were there, because it was still somewhat breakfast time, but, like, close... It was basically lunchtime at this point. But they had, like, a whole bunch of breakfast foods and things like that. Like, I got a pizza bagel. And basically, it's exactly what it sounds. It's basically a pizza on a bagel. And... I got mine on a blueberry bagel, and I was just like, what the are you thinking? Like, why did you get it on a blueberry bagel? Like, and I thought, oh, this is going to taste really disgusting, or really weird. But, as you know, I'm a stickler for weird food combinations, so I was like, oh, okay, well, you know what, I'll give it a try. And it was really good. I mean, you couldn't really even taste the blueberry bagel. Like, it was, so that was good. Yeah, and then other than that, it was just a lazy day for the most part. I mean, obviously my cousin took me back over to here so I could pack up and get back to school. So yeah, and the thing I hate is that he and his fiance had one more week of school, or one more week off than me. Well, than basically everybody else, because once we got back home, I mean, it was basically right back to normal life on Monday, and so, and they got another freaking week. So jealous. No, obviously, honestly, I wouldn't want it any other way. But, yeah, so now that kind of brings us to what's happened the past week. Because normally, at least with the Ronnie show, that's what it's supposed to be, kind of talking about what happened the previous week, since the last episode. So yeah, I got back into college. We have this thing now called J-Term, where I only take one class for the entire month of January. Now, that might seem good, but it's a 3-hour long class. Well, for my class, it's 3 hours long. Initially, I thought it was from 3.5 hours, or for 3.5 hours. Like, it would go from 8:15 to 11:45. That's what I originally thought. And then I realized, oh, it only goes till 11:30. So, I got an extra 15 minutes. And then the professor for that class the day before was like, we won't be meeting until 8:30 a.m. and we'll be meeting at 8:30 a.m. every single day. So it was that brought it down to exactly 3 hours. And in the almost 2 full weeks we've had. Last week, Tuesday through Thursday, we were out at basically between 10:30 to 10:45 or 5, and then we had Friday off, and then from Monday through to, well, today, as I'm filming this on Wednesday, once again between 10:30 and 10:45 we were out, and then tomorrow we take a test, which basically, I mean, we talk, because obviously my class is sports and society, so like for the first half hour we talk about, you know, the sporting news of the day, you know, basically, for example, like Mike Tomlin resigning, like we would talk about that, or like some of the games we watched from the night before, kind of the storylines about that and things like that. And that would take up like the first half an hour to 45 minutes of class, and then like the hour and a half, hour 15 to hour and a half would just be all like lecture and, you know, actually learning things. So yeah, so tomorrow we're gonna have a test. Now, I'm not sure if we'll be doing that or not, but basically all we got to do is just take the test and we're done. So we might be out even earlier than 10:30 tomorrow, which time tomorrow. Like, it sounds like a very basic test, like, you know, all of it's multiple choice. Well, not all of it, but like a good portion of it is multiple choice. I think he said there's like 15 questions of true or false, and then there's like a handful of questions of essay type stuff, but from what it sounds like, it's all going to be opinionated. Well, most of it will be, at least, so that'll be good. In fact, I'm just surprised I have a voice to be able to talk as long as I have, because I will admit, even Monday before I called the wild card game, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to call it or not, because it wasn't like I had a sore throat or I had like laryngitis or things like that. It was just that, you know, my voice wasn't as strong. Like, I didn't really have as much of a normal voice as I normally would have, but it wasn't like... Okay. Apologies for that it kind of cut short there. That's because, and I even knew about it too, and it just slipped my mind. My phone actually died in the last clip. And that's the thing. I knew I had to charge it, but for some reason, I just forgot. That's all I could say, really. I just forgot. So, yeah, we're just going to finish up the show here in my dorm. So, yeah. Because I didn't... By that point, I was just flustered that, you know, my phone had actually died. So, like, I was not interested in completing the rest of the show that night, at least. So, yeah, we were kind of talking about my voice. And, yeah, as I was saying, Monday, you know, even though, like, it wasn't you know, I didn't have a sore throat or anything like that. I mean, it still wasn't like my normal speaking voice. And, you know, like, something just... Like, I could feel it, like it wasn't normal. And that's just because with those games we called over the weekend, I mean, they were just crazy. So that's partially why. Although this weekend we're going to be doing a lot of stuff, because obviously we've got the Muskies game coming up next. And then we've got, well, Muskies games all weekend long, Saturday and Sunday as well. And then we're going to be doing all 4 NFL divisional round games. And then we'll have the college football national championship on Monday night, and then we'll have 2 NBA games in the afternoon before then. So, like, it's going to be freaking crazy. We'll see how my voice is Tuesday morning after that. So, yeah, that'll just be fun. I mean, luckily enough, the point where my camera cut off, we were pretty much at the end of the discussion anyway, because that kind of brings us to today. In fact, I'm recording this right after I took the test, and it actually wasn't really as hard as I thought it was. Like, there were quite a few complex questions, but as long as you, like, read the questions carefully and you read the answers carefully, you would do well. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't know what else to say, pretty much, for the most part. I mean, we'll kind of talk about some things during the Musketeers game tonight, so, yeah, we will see you then, I guess. But first, we got to take a break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Well, what did we learn here tonight? I think it's that remember to charge your phone. So yeah, we'll see you next time. Thank you.